We'll begin with Ms. Neely. After the 2010 Hingham Town Meeting voted to appropriate money from the CPA funds to fix the boiler at Thaxter Street Apartments for the elderly, the state finally agreed to pay for the repairs. In the future, how do you think the Housing Authority could put sufficient pressure on the state agency responsible for these repairs to achieve this result before sponsoring a town meeting article that put that financial burden on the town of Hingham?
I hope I understand this right. You want to know my opinion of, oh gosh. Say the question again.
Sure.
Start me from the beginning.
They're long ones, I understand. After the 2010 Hingham Town Meeting voted to appropriate money from the CPA funds to fix the boiler at Thaxter Street Apartments for the elderly, the state finally agreed to pay for these repairs. In the future, how should the Housing Authority put sufficient pressure on the state agency responsible for these repairs to achieve this result, the state paying, prior to putting such an article on town meeting, which then puts the burden on the town?
I think it should be the responsibility of the town. Thaxter Park is part of Hingham, and Hingham has, I love Hingham. I've lived here for over 20 years. It's a beautiful place. And I think the town should be somewhat responsible, especially where some of this money comes from the state. The state doesn't part with it very easily, I think, because I know nothing's been done where we are for almost 10 years. I know the last they did maybe 8 or 9 years ago, they put in new roofs on a couple of the buildings. But we are in dire need of money, and whether it's the state of Massachusetts or the town of Hingham, this is where we live. This is our home. And I think that all of these people should have I'm not asking for the Taj Mahal, but a safe, decent, brought up to today's standards. The kitchens are a disaster. The cabinets are all peeling, the floors are cracked. It needs help. Amen.
Thank you. Mr. Connolly.
Part of the issue in terms of funding situations like this, you have to understand that when the Housing Authority was formed, it had an option, I believe, to go with a federal program, which would be HUD, or a state-funded program. And it's my understanding Hingham chose a state-funded program. So that removes HUD completely from the picture, meaning any kind of federal money coming in to the Housing Authority is gone. It's completely up to the state. That budget in itself has been squeezed over the years to the point of being ridiculous, as you said. The Housing Authority can't run on the budget that it has now. For the town to step forward and offer to pay for the boilers was a very generous offer by the town. What we're finding is the windows of opportunity for grants for monies for housing authorities like this are becoming shorter. So what you need is you have to respond quicker. So you need a board who is aware or folks who may be tied into that situation to take advantage of those small windows.
Thank you. Our next question, we'll begin with Mr. Connolly.
I didn't
I'm sorry.
respond.
Thank you. Told you to catch me. Ms. James.
I could be incorrect on this, but I do not believe I am. In 2010, the CPC committee agreed to loan the money, not to fund the funding, but to loan the money, with it being reimbursed once we received the money from the state. The state stepped forward because of dangerous situations with boilers up there and came in and fixed our boilers. So that needs to be corrected. Also, what I think all of us as residents need to be fully aware of is that when we talk about the CPC committee, funding from that, a percentage of that money comes directly from the state. Your local resident taxes, part of your taxes go to the CPC. The state does a percentage match of what you raise locally. They match your money. So when we ask as a state-funded property for money from the town or the CPC committee, we're strictly not asking it from the residents of Hingham. Thank you.
Our last question here. We will begin with Mr. Connolly. And the question is, give a detailed explanation of the town's Affordable Housing Trust Allocation Plan, which was adopted at the 2007 Hingham Town Meeting.
One more time, please.
I might get that when I read that. Give a detailed explanation of the town's Affordable Housing Trust Allocation Plan, which was adopted at the 2007 Hingham Town Meeting.
I tell you the truth, I couldn't go into great detail about that particular plan. In terms of coming to this process as a board member, I think the detail I'd be interested in is maximizing the opportunity to generate revenue from the state, the money that we can use to make the units that these folks live in into a quality living situation.
Thank you. Ms. James.
Will you repeat that?
Sure.
Not that I have an answer, but would you repeat it anyway?
Happy to. Give a detailed explanation of the town's Affordable Housing Trust Allocation Plan, which was adopted at the 2007 Hingham Town Meeting.
Okay. Honestly, I really don't have an answer. But one thing that needs to be noted and we need to be aware of is that the CPC, a certain percentage of that money that is in there annually, is earmarked for affordable housing in Hingham. If that money is not used for affordable housing in Hingham, which at that point, that money is directly beneficial to our veterans, to our senior citizens of Hingham. Once the money is not used for that purpose, it goes into an affordable housing trust fund. That is completely different. Once it is at that level, that money can be used to purchase different properties around, which can be allocated or put in a lottery for all residents, not just local residents of Hingham, to have the opportunity to live in.
Thank you.
That didn't make sense.
Ms. Neely.
Well, I'm not sure if I know what your plan is that you're talking about, but I do know somewhat about the affordable housing. I know that it's people in other places too, but they can't afford to live in Hingham anymore. They just can't. And so the affordable housing, I think, that's my opinion of what it's made for. But I still think there should be a giant piece of the Affordable Housing Trust. It should go into Baxter Park because we need it. There's 30 seconds left. We really need it. We need someone on the Hingham Housing Authority too that's a member of the community. And I would like to be it. My name's Pat Neely. Remember me. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we'll move into our closing statements. Ms. Neely.
Same thing. I really want to be on the Housing Authority Board. I really want to make sure their voices are heard. These people are old. A lot of them don't even come out of their place. But if this is where they're going to spend their last days, shouldn't it at least be presentable and safe to live in? That's the end of it. I did the best I could, and with God's help, he'll put me there. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. James.
In closing, I honestly think creating a positive and supportive working relationship with our local government leaders by seeking a problem-solving partnership is a must. I'm a third-generation Hinghamite. I also have a passion for the history of Hingham and the welfare of the town. I strongly think I would be a well-received spokeswoman for our Hingham residents. And I respectfully ask you for your vote, which would allow me the privilege of serving our senior residents and veterans of Hingham. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Connolly.
I'd like to thank everybody this evening for coming here, and I'd like to thank the League for putting this on. I think we'd all agree that the Housing Authority is in need of major repair. It's a huge issue. The seniors of the town deserve a quality place to live, and we don't have that right now. What we need is somebody with a background who understands what's necessary. From a building perspective, from an energy efficiency perspective, from a grant or money perspective, and from working with a board and bringing things like that together. I've worked with public housing authorities throughout New England, in New Hampshire, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. I think I have what it takes. I'd like for your vote on that day to put me on the board.
Thank you very much. We appreciate all of you joining us this evening.